Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. Welcome back to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. I'm so excited because today my guest, one, I'm so excited to be returning from hiatus, and two, that my guest is someone, an OG Chicago Jewish Twitter friend, and possibly also Jewish blogosphere. We'll get into it a little bit. She is a high school educator in Israel at an international school and a writer. Please welcome Sharna Marcus. Sharna, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm doing well, thank you.
I am thrilled that you had the audacity to reach out and say, hey, can I come on your podcast? Because I've been thinking all week that I've been on hiatus because I had emergency gallbladder surgery, then I moved, and a lot of things come before my hobby podcast. But I've been trying to think about like how to come back and who to have on. And then you reached out today and our schedules aligned and here we are.
Yeah. What I like about you is I've always really respected you. And I find that it's so hard to break in to the world sometimes, and even people who've known me forever, if you're not a dude,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not, if you don't look a certain way or have a certain title, or your voice can't be heard, and I like how you elevate different people's voices, and I've always really respected that about you. So,
I appreciate that.
To you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I think we'll just jump into the deep end. Sometimes I start with small talk, but I'm going to.
It's going to be a funny pun in a second when you hear about my journey.
It's Friday, June 20th.
Mm-hmm.
1 in the afternoon in Chicago, 2 in the afternoon in Indiana. And the war with Iran has been going for a week, and we're 20 months or more into the war with Hamas in Gaza. And you live in Israel, but you were able to get out, and you said, let's talk about, one of the things we want to talk about is how did you get out? And one of the other things, I laughed when I was doing the intro, because I always say this is about getting recommendations without using an algorithm, but everything everybody knows about Israel is driven by an algorithm. And right. So it's going to be such a good discussion. But where would you like to start when I ask, how are you? Where are you? How do I find you today?
Well, I think, I got here on June 17th, which was my birthday. It was the longest birthday ever because it started in Austria. And the day before, I had disembarked in Cyprus, because the day before that, I had been on a cargo ship. And I was, that's why I said the water thing, the deep end. Yeah. And the day before that, what happened was my husband and kids came to Chicago early. They left school early because my daughter was going to a Jewish camp. Mm-hmm. Our school year ended late, so they left early, and my husband her foot was bothering her, and he took her to urgent care, and there was like 3 centimeters of a pin in her foot, and so she needed emergency surgery, and the war with Iran had just started, and I got that news, and that she was going to need emergency surgery. And I was like, well, you have to take her to Lurie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I called a mutual friend of ours. I think you know her. Do you know Jennifer Miller? Do you know her? Dr. Miller?
Don't know her.
I think she goes to your synagogue.
I do know her. I'll look her up. I'm sure, because we do. My twin sister is a Jennifer, and I always clock when I meet a Jennifer in a Jewish setting. So
it's okay.
Yeah,
she's awesome if you don't know her, and she and I've been friends since we were 14, and so I also called her just to, But anyway, so I called the head of our school, and I was like, are we closing school? Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to find a way out. And then he said, probably, but I don't know. And then the next day I got a mysterious phone call that said, can you be at the ship in 2 hours? And the ship was an hour away.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, okay, there's more to the story, but I can't really tell a lot of the details.
Sure.
And I drove through a rocket attack. I went home. I grabbed my computer, my charger, some medication, and my passport and my wallet, and that's it. And I drove the hour through a rocket attack.
Yeah.
And then I got on this cargo ship. And that was 15. And I texted my husband and I said, I'm getting on a ship. And then I didn't realize the ship wouldn't have Wi-Fi.
Right.
And so my family flipped out because they didn't hear from me for 15 hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't say I was on a cargo. I just said I'm getting on a ferry.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't hear from me, and they were really worried. And then I called them from a port in Cyprus, and then I took a bus to Larnaca, and then a flight to Austria, and then spent the night in Austria, and then a flight to and then a flight to Paris, and then a flight to Chicago.
Wow. And
then drove to South Bend.
Yeah.
So and then celebrated my birthday. I don't know if you saw that on Facebook, but with my son. So
that's so special.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it and being very confused. Like I knew all air travel was shut down. I knew you had just done like a live stream from your balcony.
Right.
And I had come on your live, and then it seemed like boom, all of a sudden you were in Indiana.
That was 60 hours. So that was 65 hours later after I did the live stream.
Wow. I have a friend whose business is putting like texting a server that allows people to do text messaging on cargo ships. And this is why.
Yeah.
But it's not, every ship doesn't have it, but it's, like for crews on cargo ships, once they're on that ship, they're often completely out of communication.
Yeah, I've never been on a ship in my life. I mean, I think I've been on maybe when I was 22, maybe, but I guess I just had never, I was shocked, in, Israel, the high tech.
Right.
I didn't know that that was a thing.
Right. Were there a lot of passengers getting on that cargo ship, or were you one of a few people?
It was people. It wasn't a lot of people.
Yeah.
But and it was kind of a unique thing that I was allowed on it, and it was someone had heard about my daughter needing surgery, and I'd said she was already okay, and I said I really don't need the spot anymore.
Yeah.
She was already out of surgery and she was fine. And they were like, no one else is going to take this spot. You have two, like no one else is going to get in a car and
Yeah.
it's yours. And I was like, no, it's not right. I was doing this whole thing. And they were like, I'm like, if there's a sick person who needs it, or someone who really needs to be, and like, they were like, Jesus, just take it.
Just take it.
And really it wasn't the type of thing everyone could do. Like it was like this, it was not, it wasn't like horrible, but it wasn't something that someone could just, I wanted to be with my kids. And what was funny is my daughter, I didn't even see my daughter. She went to camp. My daughter
went straight to camp.
She was like, I think she was I don't know if she went in full anesthesia or not, but 48 hours of full surgery, she went to camp.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's tough.
Well, I'm very relieved that you were able to, that you got that call, that you were able to get on the ship and that you're here. Something you mentioned before I hit record is how your algorithms changed in between countries.
Yeah.
So, one, I'm curious, like, what social media are you using in 2025?
Well, I'll tell you, but I don't use TikTok. Like, I never joined TikTok because I knew I already spent too much time, and I knew that would ruin my life probably. So I never joined TikTok.
I have TikTok. It is on my iPad. I do not allow myself to have it on my phone because I would never turn it off.
Right.
So, and I've had it and I've taken it off, and I've had it and I've taken it off, and I'm like, okay, it's on my iPad. It's only in my house. But yeah, boy, does it suck me in.
Right. So I've actually never even, the only time I see TikTok is when it goes to Instagram. Like so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but I've definitely like lessened my usage of social media. But and I'd say like, Twitter it's all kind of gone downhill a lot.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, I don't know. I definitely use I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. So the only one I have on my phone is actually Instagram. So yeah, I would say like my usage is declining because it doesn't bring me a lot of joy anymore. And I actually I upgraded my membership on Twitter. Like I became a blue thing, but it didn't really help. Like it's not so worthwhile. So
yeah.
I like LinkedIn actually.
Yeah. I got rid of my Twitter. I don't know. I don't know how long it was after Elon bought it, but it just started, especially in the States. I was like, I'm not finding I think it is hard to explain to people how many of my people in my inner circle are from when Twitter was an amazing website, an amazing tool that my inner circle in Israel is almost all Twitter and blogs and ROI. And then my Chicago friend groups are either people I met on Twitter or people I've met in the Jewish world.
Right.
And like 3 people from college. But like Twitter in 2007 to 2010 was such a fun tool, and the people that were early adopters were interesting and risk takers, and what a fun time, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. So it was a great time to be meeting people, and I was really sad to give it up, but I'm like, it's not it's just not, it's just I'm not seeing I've spent years cultivating this feed and these relationships, and I just felt like it wasn't accessible anymore.
Right.
So I have Threads, I have Blue Sky. Neither is a replacement for what Twitter used to be. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok on my other device.
Yeah, Threads I don't enjoy. I have that. I forgot.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that. But the one thing, I have two Twitter accounts, and I don't use my original one at all, almost. But my teacher Twitter account, I like, because you get some interesting like ideas from teachers and some discussions, um, but again, that's also turned kind of sour, and so, you know, and then you do come to the realization that it does become all about the dopamine thing, and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why do I need this admiration? Why do I need this like? Why do
Mm-hmm.
I? So, um, so yeah, that's, once you've come to realize that, then it becomes less kind of interesting. But yeah, like Facebook, when I first started teaching AP European history, Facebook was clutch for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So
Were you in like a Facebook group of APUSH teachers and working with each other, and what are people doing and sharing resources?
yeah, I started that I started teaching AP Euro during COVID. And
Oh,
in
wow.
Israel, it was, total lockdown. And so
Right.
I was completely isolated. And if I had a question, I would just go to that group, and people were super helpful.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so certain times, social media is not about the dopamine rush. Certain times it's critical for getting great information, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
know when and how and who.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you feel like, I feel like it has been hard to keep up with the news out of Israel, like knowing where to go, what the algorithm what the algorithm is going to push.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you linger on one thing too long, then you just see, like, thankfully my brain, I was like 26, 27, 28 when I started using this stuff, so my brain was more fully formed. But like, you linger on a video and then everything becomes hardcore left wing, or you linger on a video and everything becomes hardcore right wing.
Right.
And I remember I had dinner with a friend probably like October 10th or 11th. And he was like, "Can we talk about the situation?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said to him, I wish I knew what it felt like to have the certainty of my friends on either side of the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to uh, the 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 situation in Israel, and I feel that also with this war with Iran, that there are people who have just certainty about what needs to happen, and I don't have that. And sometimes I think it's right, like I converted, and I've been to Israel 14 or 15 times since I converted. I converted 20 years ago. I considered making Aliyah, but then Nefesh like canceled my meeting, and apparently that's all it took to like dissuade me, which tells you I'm probably not, for living in Israel is probably not my, if canceling one meeting is enough. So sometimes I think I do, like, I take a back seat on conversations about Israel because I not because I converted, but because I came to all of this in my late 20s, and because I have, like, I'm single and I haven't married and I don't have family in Israel. I have chosen family, and I have people I love dearly. But I am always afraid of sharing a fact of making a mistake. I'm so afraid of making a mistake in my effort to positively represent Israel that sometimes I don't say anything at all, because I'm like, is it worse to make a mistake? I understand as I say this out loud, like how it sounds, but it's been, I have had a really hard time finding certainty, envious of people who are so just like stuck in their position on wherever they're stuck, whatever they believe. And I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is that Israel is the other country in the world where I have the most friends, I know the most people, I visit most often, and I want those people I love to be safe and living. I want these wars to be over. And that's not a controversial statement. But I just don't, I have a few people locally that I have private conversations about, but I don't engage in the discourse online anymore.
Well, I don't know that engaging in discourse online is really helpful. And I find that when I do it, I'm usually doing it, I'm like at a low point for some reason. Like, I mean, or someone says something really like terrible, and it's in like some sort of public space, and I feel the need to correct the record, but I find that that's usually like not smart, or I'm maybe in a bad place when I'm doing that. It's not like sometimes I'll take on anti-Semites. It has nothing to do with Israel. Like sometimes I'll take on anti-Semites.
Yeah.
But like I think what you're representing is something that a lot of people lack, and that's humility. And I think a lot of people lack humility on Israel, and I think that goes both ways. I think that goes on people who are absolutely certain that everything Israel does is absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. That goes for people who think that everything Israel does, including its existence, is wrong. And it's astounding, like the lack of humility that people have today. And I lead with humility. I lead with humility as a teacher, and I've been teaching this since 2001. So I'm not an Israeli citizen. I think I need to be clear about that. I'm not an Israeli citizen, and I think when you're not an Israeli citizen, if you've never served in the IDF, I think those two things alone, you need to have a lot of humility before you open your mouth about like a lot of things in terms of Israel and like the war effort. To be critical of Israel, no, but like I'm always real careful about things. My husband served in the IDF, and so I often defer to him about a lot of things, because that's a whole nother experience.
Right.
Also, if someone served in the U.S. military, I think that gives them a lot more authority on what it's like to be involved in war. War is awful, and so I just think like it's hard for me to understand people who think they know everything, because I think we know so little about so much, and so that's I'm okay with that, with saying like I know quite a bit, but I still know very little, but I'm happy to share my knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is what I teach. This is what I get paid to teach.
Yeah. You teach Middle East history. Do you have a specific, so it's an international school.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a specific Israel history, or it's the region?
So I teach a course, and the course is a bit dynamic, but it changes based on what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when Erdogan was faced a challenge, and he then made Turkey less democratic.
Right.
There's an article. There's a lesson that that I have published about is Turkey still democratic?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to keep the course relevant to some degree. So when Israel was having all of those democracy protests, that's what I was focused on. But now that the war has happened, we have focused a little more on Israel, and we focused on Syria a lot, like recently with the new leadership there.
Right.
In the past, we focused a lot on Iran. But I always teach the history of Islam because I teach Jewish Israelis, I teach Palestinian Israelis, and then I teach children of diplomats and expats. So that's who's in front of me.
Yeah.
So that's like, those are the people in front of me.
Is there something that you regularly teach? What is the thing that you regularly teach that the kids, it just blows their mind? They're surprised. They had never heard of it before. It shifts how they're thinking 12 degrees. Is there something like a point in history or a lesson that you return to that's like got a big bang?
Yeah, I think the commonalities between Judaism and Islam. Mm-hmm. I think that is, and also the golden age of Islam, and I think so few people know that that the Muslims gave us algebra, trigonometry, that the first emergency room, also, that how better Jews, it wasn't perfect, but how better Jews fared under Muslims than in Christendom. Mm-hmm. And so I think that rocks people's world a bit.
Right.
And so that's always like kind of a shock.
Yeah.
To kids, like, and then just how advanced Muslim civilization was. Mm-hmm. And then just connecting it, like how that then led to, the invasion of Constantinople, then led to the Renaissance and all those connections. And
yeah.
So, yeah, all that stuff kind of rocks their world. But
the first emergency room, tell me more about that.
I mean, it's just they set up these the first cataract surgery, all of these things were during the Muslim Golden Age in Baghdad, and this is I don't know exactly what it looked like. You can medical encyclopedias, all of these things like being more hygienic, vaccine, like primitive maintenance. So yeah, that was all. That was way before the scientific revolution. Mm-hmm. So then the question becomes like, why aren't we exposed to more of that?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And I think you are more and more like in the 21st century. Like I think, when you and I grew up, we weren't really exposed to that, but like, why is that not taught more?
Right.
And then, but yeah, Baghdad was where it was at.
Amazing.
The Mongols destroyed it.
Wild. I probably need to find like a continuing ed Middle East, like a broad history.
John Green, John Green, like
Yeah.
Crash Course. You could just
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't get that stuff from him, but I'm sure he has all of it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Or Khan Academy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's all there. Or I can just give you my stuff.
I'm just gonna audit your class from Chicago.
Oh yeah.
So school's out for summer now.
Yeah.
And I saw that the first flights from El Al had landed in Israel today.
Yeah. I knew people on them.
Yeah. And yeah, is your son going to head to camp, or is he also at camp?
No, he's in day camp.
He's in day camp here.
He's not ready for overnight. I mean,
yeah,
he's a different kid. My daughter's ready to move out and live on her own at age 12, but my son's a different beast. So.
Are you gonna stay in the States to the end of the summer?
Yeah, I mean, we always do. We come for 2 months. So I was going to be here on the 20th. So I came in a few days early.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to clean my apartment. That was like my goal.
Yeah.
But instead I left with a load of laundry
in the washer.
Yeah. So I asked someone to get that out for me. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think that's people's first priority is helping me with my wash. But
right.
Yeah, he's at the same Jewish camp that I went to when I was a kid in South. So
that's great.
Yeah, so it's a great camp.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite treats when you're here for the summer?
Chipotle, and Dairy Queen. But I'm going to try and work out. I kind of went off the wagon. I know you and I, we like you and I wrote this to you that we switched health problems.
Yeah.
Becoming older, we switched health problems. So I need to get back in shape and, so maybe not as much Chipotle, not as much, but I did have Dairy Queen yesterday. And I don't know, just being able to park easily and just seeing friends. I have like really nice friends in Israel, but it's just not the same as like Chicago friends and pre-marriage friends. Like it's just a totally different thing. So, I'm going to a wedding of someone I met in Chicago, like the Chicago Jewish world. I'm going to a wedding and he wrote me and he was like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Oh, I got out. I needed to make sure you got married,
Yep.
I needed to make sure you follow through with it.
I need to make sure that happens.
Yeah. So, but, yeah. And, just a lot of my like IU friends, even, like my friend who helped me with my daughter, like, that's a BBYO friend. That's a youth group. So, like the friendships from childhood and everything, like, I haven't really, like my parents lived here their whole lives. My mom is still alive, but like, and they would go out every Saturday night with friends. And I sort of thought like, oh, that happens automatically when you get married, but like that does not happen.
No. No, you have to make it happen.
Right.
You have to find the people that you want to spend time with as a couple, and then you have to make it happen.
Right. But I live in a transient universe. So like
Yeah.
everyone leaves and
Right.
it's so yeah, I've lived a very different life than my parents did and in a different country. And it's been, my life has turned out totally different than I expected. Not bad, but
Mm-hmm.
just, except for the rockets, but just different.
Yeah. So do your kids, briefly, for a couple years, I worked in study abroad
Mm-hmm.
administration. And when I was working in study abroad administration, I learned about the concept of third culture kids,
Yeah.
who are like essentially like the children of diplomats, children of expats who grow up in a country that's different than their parents' home country. Um, do your kids growing up and attending school at the international school, do you think they're third culture kids, or are they like Israeli American, American Israeli? Where do you think they're gonna shake out in that?
That's interesting. So my son does not, really speak Hebrew, but but it's he has a block.
Mm-hmm.
But he might speak Hebrew and we don't know it. Like I
Yeah.
once caught him speaking Hebrew,
Hmm.
but he does have kind of a block. My daughter speaks Hebrew, but she's not super literate in Hebrew, but she's becoming literate.
Yeah.
And we come here for their Jewish literacy
Yeah.
because we don't have that there
Yeah.
because we just don't have like a community we're comfortable with there.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I haven't done the work that we need to do. And my job is, or at least the way that I do my job is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't been able to manage that. So if I were willing to just like raise them Orthodox or Chabadniks, then it would
Mm-hmm.
be super easy. I'd just like send them downstairs and they'd be,
Right.
but I couldn't do that. So yeah, so to answer your question, they're not third culture kids, but they're they're going to be whoever they say they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, yeah. I mean, and also we might move back here. Like I don't know.
Right.
So it's not. My daughter, I think my daughter would say she's Israeli. I think my son would say he's American. And what's funny about it is my daughter doesn't have Israeli citizenship and my son does.
Oh.
He was born there. So
Yeah. How funny.
yeah. So it's just, whatever they think and whatever they want. And I'm very much, but yeah, like we're having a problem figuring out how to do a bat mitzvah for her. And it's like not, so I need to do it. And it's, I don't know if anyone else has had this problem, but like since COVID, doing things have become very difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so like planning a bat mitzvah is extremely
Right. Yeah. No, it has been very hard to get things done post COVID or
right.
post vaccine, because there's still COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just like comfortable living around piles of boxes, and I'm like, they'll probably get to a point where like I don't want to live with towers of cardboard boxes around me.
Mm-hmm.
I have not reached that point yet.
Right.
At all. Like it doesn't. I'm like, okay, so I can't. Yeah, and that is unpacking is less work than planning bat mitzvah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that's hard if you, right, like finding the tutor and the community that you're comfortable celebrating it with, and do you do it in the States or do you do it in Israel? And there's just so much admin work.
Well, I had a plan and then the plan kind of didn't work. And then I had another plan and then that plan failed. And it's kind of like what you just said before. It's like what you said about like the Aliyah thing, like you're
Mm-hmm.
canceled, and then you're just like, well, but it's my daughter, it's not me, you know?
Right.
So I have to like persevere.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to make sure that you shared today?
Oh, well, I mean, just the war.
Yeah. Right. That.
I guess the things that have been like troubling me is about the like, you're saying this podcast is my favorite things, and one of them that used to be was Jon Stewart,
Right.
and he has always been such a hero of mine.
Yeah.
And I used to watch him religiously, and to see him now is so disappointing. He presents himself as like what he's doing now is just very upsetting to me, and I don't know. He's bugging me a lot, and I'm okay with him not being. I'm okay with his stance on Israel. I don't mind when people are against like Israel as their point of view. Like everyone is entitled to their opinion, but he has such a huge audience.
Yeah.
And he'll say things like, "Well, I'm just a comedian," but he's not just a comedian.
Yeah.
And it's very disingenuous to say. And then I saw him yesterday. I think this is what's been bothering me. I saw him yesterday, and he was talking to Christina Amanpour, and he was sort of helping her, which was funny, speak. I don't know if you saw this, but like
I saw some clips of it. Yeah.
He was setting her up to be more articulate, which was crazy because she's very articulate.
She's so articulate. Yeah.
And like he was like, so what do people in Iran think about what Israel's doing to them, Christina? And he was feeding her lines, and I was like, you don't need to feed her. She can do this herself. Like, and then he has spoken about like why as a Jew he owes nothing to Israel, and he does. Israel does not need Jon Stewart. Israel doesn't need me. But like I don't know why he's taken on this spokesman role of the Jew who doesn't need Israel, and like I don't understand, like he's a great spokesperson for 9/11 people who aren't getting benefits from the government.
Right, the first responders.
Yeah, I love that role for him, and I'm very, are you a comedian or are you a news person? So, you need to say what you are. And if you're a Jewish person who's taking a stand against Israel as just like you've taken a stand for the 9/11 responders, then you need to own that and be transparent instead of just being like, I'm just a comedian.
Right. Nothing I say matters.
Yeah, because it does matter. And it doesn't just matter. It really matters.
Yeah.
And also, like, no one elected you as a spokesman of the Jews.
Right.
Like, I don't care that I've never cared that he was Jewish. Like, that never made him funny to me.
Yeah.
He was funny because he was funny.
Yeah.
And I also think he's poorly informed often about things. And I think he doesn't know very much about Jewish history, and like the things he says are very shallow, and it's because he's a comedian. But he's not taking on the role of a comedian.
Yeah.
And that annoys me.
Yeah.
So pick what you want to pick. You got to choose.
Yeah.
And these are very serious. We're in very serious times, and you need to make a choice. And especially when you're with Christina Amanpour, like he's playing both sides, and I find it really like problematic.
Yeah.
So he was my favorite thing.
He's not your favorite anymore.
Yeah, same with Trevor Noah. I mean, also like it's you can't choose who you are on one day. You can't be one thing on one day and another thing on another day. You have to take on a role and decide like who you're going to be.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish Reboot does like the retreats for Hollywood Jews, right?
I've never heard of it.
It was sort of the same question that like ROI Community with Schusterman or Wexner, any of these foundations that pick a slice of Jewish life and say, we want them to know more about their Judaism. We want them to know more about history. And they make opportunities for people to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And Reboot, I believe, is specifically the one for people in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
So like Joey Soloway, who created Transparent, participated in Reboot. So it really did a lot to help start changing Jewish representation, because they were taking people who were nominally Jewish, who were Jewish, but didn't have like, they weren't, anything I say I'm going to sound like an asshole, right? They were Jewish, but they weren't living particularly Jewishly, or they didn't grow up going to summer camp. They didn't have a strong Jewish identity beyond like bagels and lox, maybe.
Right.
And Reboot provided the opportunity to learn more deeply about their Judaism, but in the context of being with their peers in Hollywood.
Okay.
And there are a lot of Jewish podcasters that I listen to, who I listen to for their film podcasts, for their comedy podcasts, who will say things about their experience growing up Jewish or their relationship to their Judaism. And I'm like, oh, please just let me start the Jewish Fellowship for Jewish podcasters who like camp missed them. Like their parents, they just being Jewish is just another thing on the list, but it's not something deeply meaningful to them. I don't know, like to get more Judaism in their personal Torah, and I think about that all the time. Is like, what's the opportunity to help people know that they can keep developing their relationship to the people, our history, our religious texts. Like it doesn't stop at 13. And I think that's where I'm lucky, is that I didn't come to Judaism until I was 27. So I didn't learn anything about it until I was an adult. And I got to learn as an adult what my friends learned as preteens and teens. And then I've been very lucky that Wexner and Schusterman have invested a lot of money in my Jewish education. And I understand that I am in a very privileged position of people who have had the opportunities to go on retreats and study with people and be exposed. And I wish more of the Jews that we see in media had the chance to like go on these retreats or learn more, and have the opportunity to have a deeper relationship to Judaism. So then at least when they're talking shit, they're talking shit from an educated place. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that's like part of that is is going back to being to like a level of humility and knowing that you there is more to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what's lovely about the communities that do a lot of outreach now is that they accept you for whoever you are,
Mm-hmm.
but they also don't really offer necessarily like opportunities for you to learn.
Yeah.
It's just like, just come, just eat, just drink. But like the learning is for a certain group of people.
Right.
And so like the Judaism that I grew up with, which was actually like I did go to an ultra Orthodox elementary school and such. It was it was about learning and studying
Mm-hmm.
and I and when I teach English literature, I use a lot of that in teaching literature. But like that's like what makes Judaism special to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is like is the intellectual part of it. I'm not a
Yeah.
very religious person, but but like that gets lost when it becomes just about joy is wonderful, but the next step from joy should be learning. And I don't know that those communities, they bring people in, but I don't know that then they provide opportunities for learning. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they do or not. And maybe people, I don't know, maybe people don't want to learn that much. I don't know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, it's important that my, like, my Judaism isn't solely based on the fight against anti-Semitism.
no.
Like, it, anti-Semitism exists and it is a real problem, but I have a hard time understanding people whose entire Jewish identity is seeking out and fighting anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I went to Poland, did a Poland trip in 2019, and I went and I kind of thought going, I don't, as a convert, um, like who none of my family was in the Holocaust. Um, is this what is this trip to Poland going to have for me other than I love Zohar, who was leading the trip, and I knew a few people going on the trip. I knew I would learn a lot, but I didn't think I would learn about a Judaism that I didn't know what I was going to learn. And I came away from that trip and I was like, oh, Poland is a part of my Jewish story. The deep history of learning, of Talmud, of like we have only learned the last the 6 years of Jewish history during World War II in Poland, and this trip was 1,000 years of Jewish history. And I came away and I was like, oh, Poland is a part of my personal Torah. It is a
Right.
part of my Jewish journey. That the texts we learn from, like they don't exist without the Poland part of our history. And it was really impactful for me to just learn so much more about a country, uh even though like my family doesn't come from there, but like our story, our collective story, so much of it was written down there. And I think that's it. For me, that was a really powerful. It's possible the trip to Poland was more powerful than like most of my trips to Israel combined. But it was the most intentional educational trip I've ever been on, where like every day we're at a new place and we're learning about Zohar did a great job. Like we learned about
Wait,
in every
was it Zohar Aviv or
yeah,
who? Okay.
Zohar Avignor.
Oh, wait, I don't know who.
Let me look up his name. He's been really involved in the family hostage forum because his Avigdori.
Oh, okay.
He does drag. He lives on a kibbutz. He's a high
Okay.
school teacher,
Oh, okay.
and he lives on a kibbutz in the north. He is an educator and leads Poland trips.
Okay.
And his sister-in-law and nephew were taken on October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But they were released in that first hostage release.
Okay.
But he has continued to be active in the family hostage forum.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's an outstanding educator on these Poland trips. And he made sure that at every single day, every single stop, we heard the story of Jewish resistance, no matter where we were. And it wasn't just, we didn't only hear about it in the Warsaw Ghetto, but we heard about it in Auschwitz. We heard about it in Treblinka. Everywhere we went, he had some story of resistance to share with us, which I also was really powerful. And then we sang, I don't remember what song we sang, but in every space we went to, we also sang a song that you would sing in synagogue, like in a round. So we also like intentionally filled these spaces that had been, maybe they're museums now. They're not Jewish spaces anymore. They're
Right.
Holocaust museum spaces. And we filled them with it was a combination of Israelis, diaspora. It was an amazing trip. It was so powerful. And I wish I could prescribe that trip, not like March of the Living, but that trip was so hard to people who think Judaism is a throwaway part of their identity.
I led 2 of those trips.
Yeah.
And it was the first trip I led with a bunch of different people, but the second one I really only led with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a responsibility.
Yeah.
It feels very heavy, the responsibility to it's such a responsibility because you don't want people leaving those trips feeling burdened, and you want them to feel the life. You want them to remember that this was a place where Jews lived. But
Mm-hmm.
the first time I went out. We went to Berlin. We went to Germany first.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just being very uncomfortable with the idea of being, of feeling like an artifact. And I did not enjoy being an artifact.
Yeah.
And I didn't share that with the kids, but that was my feeling in Berlin, that I was an artifact, at the Jewish Museum. And
mm-hmm.
I felt very weird about that and uncomfortable, and just had to sit with that discomfort. But yeah, that's just kind of an odd feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just something. Yeah, that was very difficult. But I found Germany to be much harder than Poland in a lot of ways for me. Even though Poland, the Polish people, have never really reconciled their roles in the Holocaust,
Mm-hmm.
Germany has very much reconciled their roles. It was just very hard, that idea of being an artifact.
Yeah.
And also the seeing where the final solution was created and how beautiful it was there.
Yeah.
Most beautiful place ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very difficult to see the paradox of beauty and horror and such. And also now that there's so much Holocaust denial, how it's crept up, and and just and I think and that was something else I wanted to talk about, is that I think that a lot of the difficulty right now in the world is that, we've grown up in the last 25 years with so many people have lied to us about things. And I think that's also the difficulty now. What you were talking about, certainty,
Mm-hmm.
is that, with the Iraq war, that was a lie. And it's like, okay, can Iran build a nuclear bomb in a week, a month, a year? And so it's like, what is the certainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we've grown up in an age where we've been lied to before, it's very difficult for people. And so I don't blame people for not getting behind this, Americans,
Yeah.
for not getting behind this. I don't blame them, like I think it would almost be foolish for someone to be like, yeah, let's just totally get behind Israel. Let's go there and let's bomb Iran. I think that would be foolish given what the last 25 years have been like for us.
Right.
And I think the United States, I think Israel owes, complete transparency and a complete understanding of what it means. And because I think when like this time period is studied, I think that lie had so many effects. I think it's why the COVID vaccine was problematic. I think we don't realize how that Iraq war, how badly that messed us up.
Right. The weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it's just the stakes for Israelis are so high.
Right.
That it's, and the thing is, it's like, Khomeini or the Ayatollah, they're very clear about what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just what's not clear is what they have.
Right.
And it was very clear on October 7th what they wanted to do. And when people how people have forgotten that is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And so like, it's very difficult, but the idea that Americans should just get behind this, I think that's, or Europeans or everyone in the world, I think that's naive. I think if there's a case to be made, it has to be made very clearly, transparently, and honestly, and with the understanding that we've been lied to before, and yeah, it's got to be real.
Yeah.
And so I get it. Like I understand. So, and that's what I'm talking about, humility.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell Americans, like, yeah, President Trump should go bomb Iran. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
But you understand Israelis being like, well, if we don't and they get a nuclear bomb,
That's the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to say, is like, I see both sides, and I just think it's like, this is what happens when leaders are dishonest, and these are the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And how important it is that we have honest leaders, and we're going to pay these consequences for a long time.
Yeah. I think my backseat driving on this for BB was, right, everything that Israel's been able to do in the last week was based on 20 years of Mossad intelligence and working their way into the systems, right? In Iran. And Bibi knew that all this was happening. And I don't understand. I guess if you know that within the next year, our country is going to do this big attack on Iran and on their nuclear development, and the world, the liberal Western world, hates us right now because of how things are going in Gaza. I guess there's part of me that doesn't understand, and I know you can't just wrap up the war, and it's like naive of me to think like that. But if I don't understand how, if he knew he was going to need the support of the Western world in this, like why he didn't find a way to a permanent ceasefire earlier or at all with Gaza. But then I've listened to a couple interviews on Dan Senora's podcast this week with negotiators, the chief negotiator for Biden through the end of his administration, and understanding how many ceasefire negotiations happened, and that Hamas is the one that said no every time, and trying to wrap my head around, like, it's not just Bibi dragging his feet for the sake of dragging his feet, that there are other people negotiating these ceasefires. So that's what I say when I'm like, I wish I was certain. I wish I was like, I don't know. I did not go into national leadership for a reason.
No, I mean, they want the last ceasefire negotiation was that Hamas wanted a permanent ceasefire. Mm-hmm. He offered a 2-month ceasefire. That was the breakdown. Okay. So I mean that was the breakdown. I mean, in the last one. Yeah. So they can't offer them a permanent ceasefire with Hamas in power. Right. So I don't blame. I'm kind of neutral on that issue, on him, but like I don't blame him for not negotiating offering a permanent ceasefire to Hamas. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know how he can exactly. Right. And then maybe I don't understand, but I thought that the reason they attacked now was the 60 days post the inspection. Yeah. But then, I read today that Iran blamed the nuclear inspectors, and they said, no, we didn't say anything different. Mm-hmm. And they denied their role in it. So this is what I mean. I mean, I'm saying, like, if we can't trust people to do their jobs well, it's also with the United Nations and UNRWA, and I don't know if you saw that I was very upset about the 14,000, when they said 14,000 Palestinian children are going to die tomorrow. Right. Like, that person was not true. Like, if people can't do their jobs well, these are very important people, then we need to be able to trust important people.
Right. Right. And the retractions go on page 11, right? The retractions never get the virality of the accusations.
Right. So it's right. And so then it's the algorithm who's speaking the loudest, and so anyway, I actually have to go. Okay. I have to go get my kid from day camp.
Okay. Do you want people to follow you on the internet?
Oh, sure. I can tell you my teacher Twitter is Miss S. Marcus.
Okay.
That's where I tweet the most. And then
Okay.
I'm on Instagram at Sharna Renee,
All right.
Ranee.
Great. Well, I will share those in the show notes, and it was
If you
so
have
good to get to have a nice long chat.
Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Yeah,
And if you have any other questions, let me know.
I will.
Okay.
All right.
Nice talking to
Good
you.
to talk to you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.